Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that is a minor pet peeve of mine, and we see a lot of fitness professionals out there say this, and they'll say, oh, well, you need to pick a diet that's sustainable. And they're usually generally talking about weight loss, or whether they're talking about weight loss or whether they're talking about bulking or anything else, and here's the problem with that. Why? No, it can't be sustainable. It can't be something you do for life because we are not going to be in a fat loss phase our entire life. And that's something that people need to understand, when they'll hear someone say, well, this person is doing this to lose weight and it's not sustainable. They can't do whatever this intermittent fasting or whatever it is they happen to be using for a tool. Whatever tools that you choose to use to create that deficit that you're doing, it's just a temporary tool. It's a temporary tool. Why does it need to be sustainable? And if you're at different points in your weight loss journey or fat loss journey, why do you need to use the same tools all the way through? Why can't your dietary approach adjust in order to adapt to what it is you're doing at the moment? It needs to be adaptable. Okay, it needs to be adaptable, and all you really need to have is adherence to the amount of calorie deficit that you're doing. But even then, people try to run too big of deficits. They lose too quick, and they don't engage in it correctly. When the reality is, if they built more muscle, did more weightlifting, focused on body composition more, they could actually run much smaller deficits. Even people who are fairly new is what I'm talking about here. They could run much smaller deficits and higher calories and end up with better body composition than if they just try to run a large deficit. But that's a different point entirely. But the point is, whatever dietary approach you're using is there to create a deficit. That doesn't need to be sustainable because you don't need to be spending 2 years, unless you are insanely obese, you don't need to be spending 2 years trying to be in a deficit nonstop. I mean, to me, that's what sustainability means, over a year. Well, this is creating a bad situation. We shouldn't be trying to lose weight all the time. And I don't care what our overall goals are, whether you're a lifter, an athlete, anything else, or just the general population trying to lose some body fat and get in shape. That's ridiculous. You're not going to be in a deficit all the time. You can't. You're going to be in a deficit for the next 10 years? Well, you're not going to pull that off. That's not going to be sustainable no matter what you do. And if it does, you're just going to look anorexic. You're going to look like a skeleton if you successfully do it. And here's the other thing. Attempting to stay in a deficit too long will automatically reduce adherence. You're going to binge more. You're going to mess up more. You're going to be hungrier all the time. Right? It's not workable. So this idea that it needs to be sustainable is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The only time you would say that is if you're at maintenance and a person says, well, I want to maintain this body weight. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of maintenance because I'm into strength and lifting and everything, and all my clients are lifters or athletes. All right, they all want to get jacked and strong. So we don't really maintain. We don't do that. We're generally gaining weight or losing weight. We are either actively trying to gain muscle or we are actively trying to lose body fat in phases back and forth. So in that case, for my people, there is no sustainability. There's no maintenance. We're either bulking or cutting. But let's look at that let's call it building. We're either building or we're cutting body fat. And I'm not saying there aren't points where we can do both simultaneously, but it's too hard for most people and requires too much discipline. That's not going to be sustainable for most people, that's for sure. But people will say that, oh, you need to be able to a diet that's sustainable. But we're going to run different diets for all three of those goals. And we're not going to be in those phases usually for excessively long periods of time, other than novices bulking. You know, some of my advanced lifters will build for 9 or 10 months, sure, and then we'll trim down a little bit. But that's not really sustaining because we come off of it. You're also not going to want to sustain a build and a calorie surplus, because eventually you'll reach a point to where you are going to get too fat. Just like you would, in theory, get too skinny on the other. Right? And an approach that lets you eat a certain amount of calories, it might be sustainable, but you don't need sustainability because you're going to have to change what you're doing over time oftentimes because your calorie needs are going to go up. If I have someone actually doing a build for longer than a year, their calorie needs keep going up and up and up. So whatever diet they were doing, if it's sustainable, is irrelevant because we don't need it to be sustainable. We're going to have to change it again, especially if they were struggling to get the food in and quality food in that we wanted. Right? So where's the sustainability? There isn't any. So I would look at that and say, why does a diet need to be sustainable? Why does it need to be a lifelong commitment to that type of diet? Or that approach you're using, that method? Doesn't need to be. It's not necessary. It's probably not even desirable, particularly we come back over to the weight loss. People need to learn how to maintain their weight also later. Or again, if they really are trying to, people who are losing weight sometimes just to look good, well, you're going to have to gain a lot of muscle. Now, you're going to have to gain a lot of muscle, so you're going to have to do phases where you actively gain weight just to have the body that you probably want, and that includes men and women both. So your weight loss diet doesn't need to be sustainable. You just need to be able to adhere it through a weight loss phase. That's it. You need to be able to sustain it, because weight loss shouldn't be a lifestyle. Fat loss is not a lifestyle, and it shouldn't be seen as that. Health and fitness can be a lifestyle. Fat loss is just phases involved in it. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.